Hello, my favorite people. Natalie here. For those that don't know me, I'm a spiritual and emotional wellness coach, theta healer, medium, psychic, clairvoyant. I can do lots of really cool things. Some of the names I've been called over the years is the Tantric Mary, because I can orgasm through energy. I've actually created a Christ child, and I've been able to become God's divine lover, where he actually will come make love to me, which is totally like mind-blowing to most humans, but it's actually what we're here designed to do. You can actually understand more and more of this as you open up your own spiritual abilities and gifts. A lot of other people are doing it. I'm not the only one, but it's one of your vital things that you need to start being able to understand if you want to ever shift out of this timeline or this dimension, so you don't keep being recycled. So another couple of the names I've been called is the Madrag. The Madrag came through me as my vessel when I became the Ark, and I started to take on the energy of different creatures and plants and animals, and they've been coming to me for years in my dreams and actually making love to me and entering my space. It's not anything perverted. I'm actually probably one of the most innocent-minded people alive. I'm not even attracted to most humans sexually. I'm literally becoming a vehicle for integration of fifth dimensional life space. So we'll talk about that at a later time and why that's important and vital. Another one of the goddesses that I've integrated is Isis. Isis actually started coming to me as a small child, but about it's probably been longer. It's been about like 9 years ago. An Ankh appeared above my house in the stars, and that Ankh stayed there for about 4 or 5 years until I integrated her fully into my vessel. Another one, the Madrag, the reason I was telling you about that is the Madrag is an India goddess. Anyway, she has 8 arms, and the whole reason why I was telling you that funny story was it wasn't until I integrated the spider, like being bit by Spider-Man, I guess, the Black Widow. When I integrated the Black Widow and the spider is when I grew 8 arms energetically. And what's crazy about that is somebody could see it, like within 2 weeks of me doing it. Somebody goes, I actually see goddesses, and she says, you have these 8 arms coming out. So that was pretty trippy to know that I was the Madrag. And another thing that's really trippy about it is since I've integrated her and the Shiva, I've had a lot of people from India reach out to me, and it's really weird because they kind of like worship me. And it makes me a little bit uncomfortable because they keep wanting me to come to their culture and come to their country and like bring my power back and stuff. But the reason why I'm telling you this is because I'm integrating all goddesses, and a lot of people today are. The goddess is coming, she's awakening, and she's coming through a lot of people. The problem is they're starting to like legalize marijuana and these psychedelics, and if somebody hasn't done their internal work and they haven't earned that status before, there's going to be a lot of distorted messages coming through them because they have ego still and they have all these things and they don't realize it's everyone and those kind of stuff. And so it's going to distort the truth between the true oracles and oracles or prophets or whatever versus those that are corrupt. So it's separating. It's going to be hard to separate the two. So you're going to have to trust your heart because you're not going to really know who is who. But the reason why I'm explaining this is the goddess has been integrating into many of us at this time in different layers based on what we can handle. For instance, if you have any kind of judgment, you're not allowed to start integrating goddesses until you really release that, because some of the goddesses are dark. It's chaos and order. It's heaven. It's hell. It's light. It's dark. It's all of it. For instance, one of the dark goddesses that I integrated before was named Anyanka. You're not going to hear about her in any scriptures or any of those kind of things or books or things like that, because she was banished. She was completely banished because she was so powerful. But because I had integrated so much of my light, she was not a threat to my vessel, and so I could resurrect her, because it's very much about the balance of both and having love and respect for both and realizing we are contrast. And there's full acceptance for both and understanding what that means. I'm not saying there isn't evil in this world and there isn't a time and place to draw a line. What I'm saying is most things are just loved and unloved. They're mostly just not understood, and so people get scared. Okay? So fully integrating all of your goddesses is super vital for what I'm going to be telling you next. I'm going to give you an example of why that's super, super vital. The other day, I'm standing in the shower, and I actually posted about this on Facebook. I'm standing in the shower, and suddenly I'm 90 years old. I can feel the pain of what it feels like to be 90. I can feel the body, the emotions, the fear, the loneliness, the decay, the boggled mind. I just, like, it was suffocating to be trapped in this 90-year-old body that couldn't work for me anymore, right? And within 30 seconds, I'm suddenly a universal goddess sitting in front of a galactic group of people, and they're asking me, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I realized I had to make the decision. I was life giver and destroyer. I was judge, jury, and executor. That is who goddess is, and she's rising up in a lot of us right now. And I was like, well, if she begs for death more than 10 times, I want you to give it to her. I says it was no longer self-loving for her to be stuck in that vessel. And that's one of the rules that I've implemented as goddess universally, is if something is not self-loving, I've given humans the ability to back out. And that's it. And this goes as small and minute as, this is why humans get upset and angry, is if their kids are not going to sleep, because there's a time to rest. And it's not self-loving to be a parent all the time. You need to take time for yourself. And so we'll get angry or irritated in the evening if our kids are not listening, because it is important for them to understand that we too get to be self-loving. If we choose to come down here and have this experience, we too get to take care of ourselves and love ourselves and rest, right? And so we actually integrated anger and resentment and these things like that to show us that something's not in balance, that we are not doing something that's self-loving, so that we can set some healthy boundaries. Anyways, long story short, me making this ruling on a galactic level comes with great responsibility, because, you know, like they say, with great power comes great responsibility. And this is why. Once I made that ruling, shortly after, all these stories about these young kids that are depressed, literally signing away their life and legally killing themselves, started to come out. So what had happened is I made a glitch in the matrix, and I created what's called the Mandela Effect, something that we have never heard of suddenly becomes commonplace. And it's always been in the reality. Like, nobody's going to be able to tell whether or not that was in the reality before, but I had never heard of it before. But then suddenly it's everywhere. These kids that are getting depressed and suicidal are able to, after 17, they're able to completely have a doctor take their life, right? Legally. And the doctors do have precautions, which I'm grateful for. But at the same time, when I get granted this old woman death, I also granted the death of others if they decided that they were done with life, right? So that is why it's so important for us as goddess to understand our power and why we're going through what we're going through as we integrate all of our goddesses. Now, these goddesses have been in all the stories of time. They, like, I love, I want you to go see the new movie Aladdin. Aladdin is symbolic of the Arabian goddess that has started to integrate to me. There's the Arabian goddess, there's the India goddesses, there's all these different goddesses, right? And the Arabian goddess is actually a higher form than some of those other goddesses. It was really, really interesting when I started to see, because all of them are kind of like just love stories of the same goddess. Anyways, go see the story of Aladdin. And the reason why, two things. Number one, is symbolic of the twin flame journey. The two opposites, poverty, riches, both encaged, right? So the extreme infinity loop that is merging, which is the twin flame union, right? So that's a beautiful contrast there. But what is also beautiful about Aladdin is actually the Shiva too, because it's the four, which most people don't know Shiva is for, but we'll go into that another day. It's the ability to the two young lovers, but then you have the two older lovers that have been through life and experience a lot more and see love at a different level and capacity. And so this new Aladdin movie actually integrates both. But what was also really, really cool about the Aladdin movie is the goddess is starting to speak out, and she's being shamed by Jafar, and Jafar's like implanting these beliefs and programs inside her brain, which is it's the contrast, it's the light and the dark throughout these new Aladdin movies. So it's really, really cool, because that's kind of what's needed for you to break free from, and so you can remember who you are. But she has a song in there that says, I will not be quiet anymore, I will not shut up. And that is what the goddess is doing. She's saying, you need to stand up and be who you are and shine your light and stop playing small, because the goddess has had to stay in the shadows for quite a while. That's why you're not hearing about her in religion a lot. The humans were not ready for the goddess for a long time. I'm going to give you an example of why. Several years ago, when I started to start awakening and go through all these spiritual experiences, and I started having people call me like different names and stuff like that, which was starting to freak me out. I ended up having this dream, and in this dream, I have to go get my husband out of brothel, because my husband started going through, like, when his spiritual awakening, he started like going into the open marriage thing and things like that, which was not how I'm wired. But again, I have complete acceptance and love, and so it's learning, which has not been easy. It's learning to love and accept people for who they are. But in the beginning, he was doing it in the shadows, and so I ended up in my dream going into this brothel to find him. And as I find him, he's like on the arm of the devil, and the devil was like this blonde looking man, very charming, very beautiful looking being, and he had all these other men around him, and he's trying to explain to me why he owns my husband, why he owns my husband's soul. And he goes into all the reasons, and I just sit there, and I have this cloak. I'm like this Jedi. I'm completely in the shadows, and I'm cloaked. And when he gets done with the spill, I stand up and I drop my cloak, and I say one thing. I say, I am this. And I am so freaking bright. Like, my dress was gorgeous. I mean, like, it was white with like gold lining. Like, I was freaking beautiful. And I do look India Arabian look. I have black hair that's down to my waist, and I'm very I have those beautiful brown eyes and that like Arabian India look. But my body was so bright with energy, so light, that I filled the entire room, and the devil and everybody onto the other side fled. And that is why the goddess has had to be in hiding. Humans were not ready to receive her. She's too bright, she's too powerful, she's too beautiful. And so she's had to integrate in little pieces, right? And so she's been integrating through me and many, many people on this planet this time, and she's starting to speak out. And that's why that movie is so valid and so beautiful, because it's been telling people the truth all along, but most people are so caught up in their own drama and their own realities, they don't even know that the truth has been right in front of them. And right now the goddess is learning to speak out and speak her truth, which is kind of why this conversation is happening. So about 2 weeks ago, I died. Okay, I was invited into heaven. I ascended. I became Enoch. I got to go to heaven. Okay, this has been biblically talked about, but most humans have not been worthy of it and have not achieved it because they have not been doing their homework. They experience God through a book versus experiencing it through their own life. Okay, so when I died, it was not what I expected. In fact, I didn't even realize I was dead at first. It was one of the most beautiful experiences of my life. What you need to understand is, do not judge money or business and sales again. God is the greatest businessman and the greatest salesman ever. Like, it was like freaky how fast he got me to give up everything. It was the greatest sales pitch I have ever been given. But by the end of it, I was begging him to take my life, to take my kids, to take my family, to take my house, and erase it all. Like, it was crazy how fast he sold me. And I totally signed everything away. And it took me, it was really cool because I got to meet Christ too, and I got to see the integration of the Christ. And I'm not a religious person because I get to experience all religions because I have full acceptance for all, and so I get to find the truths in all religions, but also all spirituality with it. So I'm not inside of a box or anything, but I did get to experience Christ, which was absolutely beautiful. And in a lot of religion, text is actually very accurate. They just don't understand to what capacity it is accurate. But he did cross me over and integrate me, part of the Trinity, and I got to experience God and the goddess. and they were both singing to me, and I was their lover, and they were singing the most beautiful love songs in a language that I've never heard on earth before, but my soul completely knew what they were saying. And as I've integrated the goddesses, that's another trippy thing, is you'll start like speaking in tongues and you'll have no idea what you're saying, but it's pretty badass. And so that's been happening to me as well. But that's God was speaking out of this light language or this love language or whatever, totally different language, totally beautiful. Like music is very much in heaven, and it is such beautiful. I didn't see like angels, or not saying angels don't have a time and space within that dimension, but it was just a paradise. It was just, everything was there to worship me as the goddess. Now, what was really interesting was, before I was entered in, God had to eliminate my ego completely. Like, before he took everything, he made me feel like I was nothing. Like, that was really trippy. So it eliminates your ego first, and then when you get over there, you realize you are everything, and it worships you, and it is so freaking amazing. You don't want to come back. In fact, it dissolved this entire reality. I didn't know I had kids anymore. I forgot my husband. I forgot my life. I didn't miss anybody. Like, it was like I was there, and I don't know how long I was there. It was just the most beautiful thing, and it dissolved it, and I forgot anything. But there was like this little bit of a nudge in the back of my head, like, did I just die? Is this death? Like, I started to question. Like, it was so beautiful, and I didn't really want to come back, but I kind of had to question what was happening to me. And lo and behold, God eventually explained he didn't want me to come back. He said I was done, I was finished, I was complete, I was enough, and I knew I was enough, and so I actually completely agreed with him, and I realized why I had died. They baptized me into what was called the Church of the Firstborn. I was entered in. I actually had to give a sacrifice. I actually had to sacrifice over my oldest daughter, but it was not like death. It was like I actually passed on spiritual abilities to her so she can follow in my footsteps, if that makes sense. There was a lot of things that were taking place that are very biblically written in there, but it's to a further capacity than most humans. For instance, the whole temple worship thing, we actually become the temple. I've been doing work for the dead for a long time. We become the oracle. We do ancestral work, but it's all through our own vessel. As you become goddess. For instance, the whole like being baptized by fire. I've actually been baptized by fire. I've actually been on fire for 6 hours. I activated my kundalini, so now I orgasm through energy. That's why they call me the Tantric Mary. So there's lots of things that you start doing when you become activated, and it's all biblically there, but you're not really sure what's happening. So all those funny little things that they said, like the Fountain of Youth, or I got to see the Garden of Eden. I now know how to access the Garden of Eden anytime I want, and they showed me how to do it, and that I'm worthy and I can enter. So I get to be in the Garden of Eden, so I actually get to walk with God here on earth, simultaneously heaven and earth. But God is not just male, he is masculine and feminine. But a lot of what, there's both, but the male aspect is the light, it's the organization, and allowing Christ in the God aspect or the male aspect to come in and organize your life is what causes us to learn how to walk on water. Because the feminine, the goddess, is very emotional. She's very much water. She's the Bermuda Triangle. She goes just as dark as Mount Everest. The masculine is Mount Everest, the feminine is the Bermuda Triangle, and she goes very deep and very fast, and she has unconditional love and empathy. And but she can, people aren't sure that they can trust her because she is so mysterious, right? But the masculine brings light and order and all these cool things, and so people that learn how to embrace the Christ or embrace God, their lives will they'll flow better. They can actually shift out of pain. And so when I went to heaven, that is what I was given. I was given the ability to shift completely out of pain. I surrendered and gave everything to God, and he took my pain and my suffering, and he gave me joy, and he gave me happiness, and he gave me peace, and he gave me love, and he gave me sustainability so that I could learn how to walk on water and the emotional waters and understand why everything was happening. So those are some of the really cool things about heaven. What I also understood is we created this. This was Goddess's doing down here on earth. She needed girl time, according to God, where she needed to come and create some problems so that she had something to do, because she needed to feel like she mattered. Because he was up there worshiping, telling her how beautiful she was all the time, and she's like, I need some girl time. So she came down here and created a world and created babies, and problems and chaos and all this fun stuff we get to experience down here. And we love our problems. That's what he made very clear is, I don't want you to go. I love you. You don't need to go. You've always been enough for me. But if you want to go create your problems, I support you. And so he came down and he helped us create the problems. But the problem is we a lot of times didn't see him or feel him because we were so stuck in our own heads. And when I finally did decide to come fully back, I bawled. I'm bald, by the way, because I realized the whole forgiveness process is because we realize how stupid we are for returning. And so we beg for forgiveness because we know he already accepted us. We chose to come back. And so I came back, and that was super emotional. But when I came back, he sang to me for 3 days when I returned, and it was the most beautiful music. And so I got to live simultaneously here and there. And I went to a Renaissance fair, and he was showing me, it was the most beautiful thing. He was showing me how much he loved me and how he wanted to put everything that he had watched me my whole life, and he wanted to put everything into one space, all my lifetimes into one area. And so I ended up going to a Renaissance fair, and there's everything from every timeline that I've ever loved was there, like everything. And what was really trippy is the carnival showed up too, and there was like my favorite swing ride was there, and the knights were there, the princesses were there, the gypsies were there, the 70s were there, the 90s were there. Like the contrast of all the people was pretty crazy. But the one that got me the most was when I was younger. My first boyfriend said to me, he says, I wish you were 500 pounds. And I said, why? And he says, so that I would be the only man that will look at you. And at first that perplexed me, but then I realized that was love. To love somebody no matter what they looked like, no matter what color skin they had, no matter what shape they were, or no matter what age. That was ultimate love. And that was the first person who made me feel completely loved. And so I'm sitting here at this park, and I look over, and there's this man who looked just like my ex-boyfriend and this woman, and they're both 500 pounds, and the woman looked like me. And it was like God loved me enough to create a reality out there that mirrors what I thought ultimate love looked like in the past. And so it was a really cool and euphoric moment to know how much we are loved and we're watched. And he showed me how everything's art of the different pieces that he studied about me. And most humans are just, and you, okay, because we are the same, but we are just so caught in our own heads that we forget. And we don't pay attention to how magical everything is around us, and how much gratitude and appreciation for the fact that he let us even come here, because the truth is he freaking misses us so much. He's so in love with us. It's like telling your partner that you really, really love, okay, fine, go hang out with your boyfriends or go hang out with your girlfriends, but I miss you. Like, that's how it is to him. It's not like he wanted us to come here. But we also needed to understand the responsibility we're going to be taking on, because with great power comes great responsibility as the goddess. One day we'll be making rules universally for many, many worlds and many, many people. And we need to understand what it feels like to be those people before we make those rulings. Just like with the old lady that I made the ruling that it's okay to die after you beg for death so many times when you're elderly, I also allowed other people to die that choose death, right? That's a huge responsibility, because I also understand those people are not living up to their highest truth and their highest capabilities. They are giving up way before it's their time, but because they chose here. So we're under contract to not interfere with a lot of people. They've chosen this reality. And if we allow them to escape that, we force them to have to come back, because they're going to get over there, realize they chose it anyways, and come right back, just like I did. But the integration of being able to create heaven and earth is so, so vital. It's where the fountain of youth is, because you get to become immortal. You get to never die again. You get to live eternally. So I've been told that even though this vessel may die or may not, I have a Lakota Indian that keeps reaching out to me, telling him Creator says he's supposed to make me immortal. And I'm like, okay. I'm not really sure sometimes. It's a little bit freaky. It's like being in Neo, or being in the Matrix and being Neo and somebody saying, okay, you're the one, and they're trying to debug you. He actually debugged me. That was trippy. But the whole point of this is this is happening universal to so many of us. And if we're not aware and we're not conscious of it, we're gonna cause ourselves a lot of pain. But this is also why I told you everything I told you. So because I now understand why we've created everything, I understand this matrix is dying, that we're supposed to be upgrading into the 5th dimension. Hold on, come lay by me, my baby came in. We're supposed to be upgrading into the 5th dimension, and I was shown everything, and because I've activated the highest dimensional goddess, I was asked whether or not I wanted to destroy this world or not. And I decided to destroy it, because this is why. Most of us are so unconscious we don't even know why we're here anymore. Now, I decided not to destroy it with like war and famine and all that crap, because that stuff has been way overdone if you've not noticed, and it hasn't worked. People haven't woken up. So I decided to help create the ascension process. This is what God told me. And so right now, many of us are ascending. We're awakening, we're becoming conscious, we're becoming aware of our patterns, we're integrating the goddess. It's happening at an exponential rate at this point. And tomorrow on the 26th, it's going to, it's going to expedite even faster. Peekaboo! 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 So, you're going to notice a lot of things in your life changing as you're awakening and spiritually activating and integrating the goddess or God. By the way, my husband thought I used to be batshit crazy, but he will tell you a whole other story. Goddess actually came to him one day, and that changed his whole perception. But I'm gonna go be a mom, but the world's gonna be emptying tomorrow. It's gonna start amplifying, but not in a bad thing. It's people are gonna be start ascending at a rapid pace. Now, here's the cool thing though, is we've been planning this for many years. Many of you are already awake. There's many mentors out there to help you. There's many goddesses. All you gotta do is find one you resonate with. Because if you don't wake up, you do have to deal with destruction, which kind of sucks, because it's called the dark night of the soul, and those are never fun. It's way better to just learn this information from somebody who's been there, done that. So find yourself a mentor. And you're welcome.